So after the movie aired on the BBC over Christmas, it was criticised on social media for being racist, sexist, homophobic and slut-shaming. Who did they slut-shame? Oh, the slut, that's right. Speaking to the... well, that was the character! I can't change the film! Speaking to the A Life of Greatness podcast, Newton-John responded to the backlash saying, I think it's kind of silly. I mean, the movie was made in the 1970s about the 1950s. So let's have a little look at some of the things that they complained about in the film. So some of the viewers objected. So in the song Summer Nights, it contains the lyric, "Did she put up a fight?" claiming it made light of serious issues around sexual consent. Oh, get out of here. Did she reject you? Did she, you asked her out. Did she go for it? Did she not? Did she play hard to get? All of the... What are we doing here with our language? So I put up a bit of a fight before I, eventually relented and, yeah. There was also allegations of homophobia over a scene in which the radio announcer, Vince Fontaine, says that same-sex couples cannot compete in a dance contest that he's hosting at Rydale High School. Now, let's just have a little look into this. There's a couple of points here. This is set in the 1950s, okay? So the fact that at Rydale High School, I would imagine every single high school, any institution on the planet in 1950s would not have had a category or a right for same-sex couples to be part of the dance contest. But actually, I'd counter this in another way. The fact that Greece put that in as a theme when they wrote it kind of suggests to me they were sort of ahead of the curve. They're highlighting the fact that there's a same-sex couple. So my guess on this, who wrote Grease, by the way? Ricky, can we find out who wrote Grease? I don't know who wrote the music. They were ahead of the curve on this, right? Other viewers complained about the lack of racial diversity. I watched Grease on the BBC. Surprised they let it go out. It was full of white people. Funny that, isn't it? In a white middle-class area of the United States, they had a high school featuring lots of white middle-class people. The film has also been accused of slut-shaming in relation to its treatment of Betty Rizzo, leader of the Pink Ladies gang, who is disdained by other characters for having unprotected sex, while promiscuous men are celebrated as macho and virile. Now, I get that, but her character was meant to be the kind of character that she was. And when they call it slut-shaming, she was playing kind of into that promiscuous character. Does that mean you couldn't have anybody in a movie that played the role of somebody who was, let me put it this way, sluttish in that sense? Because that was kind of the deal. And it was highlighting life at high school and, middle America, 1950s. The fact that it was differently, differently projected as distinct from how they projected males as being macho and virile. Again, I'm not going to defend that now, but this wasn't written about now. Grease was written by Jim Jacobs and Warren Casey. Did they write the music and the script? Oh, it's another task for Ricky. He's got to go back into IMDb. What have I done to him? It all brings us down to a rather curious place. Welcome, everybody, to Deja Vu High. This is where we are on this incredible journey that, and I don't really like using the word wokerati, because I don't like using the word virtue signaler either, because I sense that everybody's used it and we like to kind of come up with our own more original terms. But we are sort of in that place now, aren't we? In terms of the wokerati, where somebody watches a period piece set half a century ago. No, scrap that. 70 years ago it was set. From people who watched that on Christmas Day or whatever it was on the BBC over Christmas. It was portraying something from 70 years ago. I saw Grease as a kid. I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen as a kid. I thought this was... John Travolta. Do men get any more manly and male than John Travolta. Please don't ring in on that. It'll just get me into a whole load of trouble. But you take my point. Olivia Newton-John, absolutely stunning. John Travolta, good-looking guy. All the supporting characters. They had the greatest life in the world over there, didn't they, at Rydell High? And, of course, it fed into another fascination I had as a kid about what was going on in America that wasn't going on here. Kids drove to school, for goodness sake. They had cars. They were at school. They didn't come in on their rally chopper. They came in a flipping Cadillac. They drove to school. They had phones in their room when we didn't have phones in our houses. Phones with really long wires on them as they could move around. Just incredible. Everything about it looked amazing. I was utterly mesmerised by that, completely mesmerised by that film. It just looked like this was the most fun people could have. The music was toe-tapping. The characters were good-looking. This is Hollywood, darling, after all. The theme was a little bit cheesy. There were people you loved, people you didn't like. It had everything in there. There was a theme about love, if you wanted to take that from it. And the whole thing was just a darn good experience. And I read people who are getting offended by that. I think of Olivia Newton-John, like she hasn't been through her own battles, and I think continues to do so to this day. And there she is getting a barrage of people on social media saying, I'm sorry, I think you find your film was very, very homophobic. Really? Olivia should have just written back with just a couple of words, really, on those kind of tweets. Apparently racist because of its lack of diversity. Apparently it was sexist because of the way it portrays women. And on top of that, it was slut-shaming. Slut-shaming. Grease is a great film, and it should always be seen and remembered as a great film. When you get a bit, I think when you're a kid or a teenager, you kind of maybe appreciate it a little bit more. It's quite nostalgic to see the clips of it again today. But when I read the same almost revolving door of the wokerati, the professionally offended, the synthetically indignant contingent of the human gene pool, I think, stop the world, I want to get off. That's the last you'll hear on that. Until the next one, of course. Who knows what subject next somebody will pick up on to be royally offended by. You're listening to Ian Collins on Talk Radio.